Welcome back everybody to another Hero RR video, and today I am riding my 2006 Honda RC51 SP2. This bike is a homologation bike from Honda so they could race the RC51. The SP2 might not have been as successful as the SP1, but it is overall an improvement pretty much across the board. It might have been a while since I put this bike on my channel, so I'm going to quickly go over the mods and features of this bike in case you guys are unfamiliar. So as mentioned before, 2006 last model year. It is in the all black color scheme, which is the only available color for 2005 and 6, and I believe they're identical. So sometimes you see a black RC51, it could be an 05 or it could be an 06. So right off the bat, let's go over some mods. We have a newer style, I believe 2013 plus CBR 1000 RR rear wheel with all the spokes. It looks really nice. And in the front we have a BST carbon fiber wheel. I tried so hard to find a matching rear wheel, but they are unobtainium, so I'm just sticking with the front. I think it actually looks pretty good. I kind of actually in a slight way kind of like it. Maybe that's just me coping, but regardless, let's move on. We have the Sato Racing exhaust system. This is a slip-on exhaust. I will do a startup and rev in a moment for you guys. While we're down here, let's look at the Race Torx. We have a Race Torx axle lifter, Race Torx axle bolt, which is pre-drilled for the racetrack because you can safety wire it all. I also have swing arm spools right here as well. So for the front, I have a front axle bolt as well, pre-drilled, same as the rear, and I even have Superbike braided brake lines, and these have the fluid going straight down, which is supposed to give it a more consistent feel. If you look back here, this is like that more traditional banjo style, so the fluid goes down and then goes out, and this is supposed to be just more of like, it's supposed to feel better. Truth be told, I can't really notice the difference. I'm not at that level. We also have Proton turn signals right here, which are more of like a flush mount look, and I'll show you guys those in a second. They are super bright. Moving on, we do have an LED low beam and regular halogen high beam. I'll show you that. It looks decent. The previous owner did that. I don't hate it, so I left it. I also have an MRA light smoke, light tinted windshield. I don't like dark smoke. I think it's just too much black, so I like that light smoke. You can kind of see through it. It looks a little bit OEM, but with a little bit of flare, and you can see through here. It kind of works that way as well. We also have some HRC socks. We have some carbon fiber tank pad protectors and gas lid protectors. I have a quad lock right here for my phone. I can just take my phone like this and it's right there, it's secure. I don't have to mess around with those little rubber feet. It also has a braided brake line for the clutch, which is a traditional style with the banjo bolt I was talking about earlier. I think it's just fine. Like I said, I didn't really notice a difference. And this is the biggest horsepower mod I have. It's the Hero RR key tag. If you guys are interested in buying one of these, let me know. I'm gonna probably put them for sale soon. I have a bunch of them. They're good quality, nice and rubber. They have like 3D textures, so it's a really nice quality, and I'm gonna sell them pretty cheap. Inside the tail, we do have a power commander. We also have a fender eliminator kit. This one is, I believe, by Hot Bodies. I'm not a huge fan of it, but it's the only one that works with the Bonsai Sato Racing exhaust, so I live with it. It's fine. And the OEM ones are just insanely expensive. If you guys are selling one, if you have one just tucked away somewhere and you want to sell it to me, shoot me an email, theherorr@gmail.com, and maybe we can make something happen. Turn the key. We immediately have a gear indicator right there. Easy to see, easy to read. Love that. I also have an override fan switch right here with that red button. I press that and it'll turn the fans on. So I do have Spall pusher fans, which are supposed to keep this bike a lot cooler, and I can confirm it definitely does, especially with the manual switch. This bike doesn't get that hot anymore. I mean, it still is a hot bike, but it's nowhere near as it used to be as bad. Here's the low beam and the high beam. Looks pretty good. And of course I have the Proton turn signal, which is so bright I literally can't look at it because it blinds me. You can see right here how the rear turn signal blinks like that. One of the circles goes away. And I have videos on doing the tail light mod if you guys are interested. It makes it brighter with the custom LED. But anyway, let's go ahead and let's light this candle. Let's start this thing. I don't want to sit here anymore. I've had about 18 million trucks pass by. Fire it up. The gear-driven cam V-twin 1000cc bike sounds so good. So good. Let's give it a rev. Sounds so good. Such a clean sounding exhaust. I know the VFR is a fantastic sounding bike as well, but man, it's hard to top the RC51. Getting on this bike, right off the line, it has some good power. It's nothing crazy. It probably won't wheelie from underneath you, but you have that torque, and it's smooth. It is so smooth. That's one surprising thing about this bike, is just how damn smooth the power delivery is. I mean, I do have a power commander on the bike as well, but even with that said, like, it's just so smooth. I have power commanders on all my bikes, and I don't know if any of them are as smooth as this. It feels like a brand new bike. And the shifting, the shifting's so smooth too. It's like butter when it goes into gear. And in the rev match, look at the rev match. First gear rev match at 40 miles an hour, and it does it no issue. I don't know what the top speed of it is at first gear, but it's got to be pretty good. This bike just sounds so damn good. When it's going down the road, it's rumbling, it got that V-twin. Yeah, the brakes are good. They have good feel to them. Now this bike feels slow. To say, this bike is very slow compared to modern day 1000s. In fact, this bike is even kind of slow compared to modern day 600s. The power to weight ratio is better on both of those. Ooh. But it's not slow enough to not piss off that sign. I gotta admit, the handle of this bike is so good. But before we talk about how good the handling of the bike is, let's talk about how bad the bike is. First of all, the seat height is tall. I'm 5'8", which is not very tall of a human, but I can kind of flat foot one side, but both feet on the ground, I'm tippy-toeing on this bike. It's very tall, and the clip-ons are super, super low. I've only been riding this bike now for about a half hour, and my lower back is already kind of like tired. So I mean, and as much as I want to blame my age for that, I've had this bike now for 6 years. And when I bought this bike in my mid-20s, I remember having that same exact complaint, that it was just a lot on a longer ride. And so that's something to consider if you plan on buying this bike to commute on or to ride long distances, do like trips and stuff. It's not the best bike for that. It really isn't. You will be tired, and let's say you have to ride an hour to get to the mountains. Once you get to the mountains, you could be so tired that you're gonna have to take like an hour lunch break or something just to recover for the ride, or you're gonna be so tired that you're gonna make mistakes and you're not gonna want to be able to go fast. So it's really a really compromising bike. I would say its comfort is similar to something like the R6, which is notoriously uncomfortable as a bike. However, it does have a benefit with the low clip-ons, the high seat height, the fully adjustable suspension. All of that grants you a very, very nice handling bike. It's a little heavy. They call it the pig for a reason. I believe I'll put the weight on the screen because I don't want to get it wrong, but she's heavy, heavier than almost any other bike in its class. But the way it glues to corners, the way it dips in, now you feel the weight going slow, but once you speed up and you're moving around, it's not that bad. It's really not that bad. Oh, freak, man. People are just whipping. One thing that just keeps standing out to me is the smoothness of that transmission and power delivery. It's so smooth. It's a shame it's such an expensive and rare bike to fix, because I would love to take it to the track and try it. But I'm too afraid to damage this bike. I'm too afraid to ride it, actually. Because I have laid this bike down once before, actually, in the area I am right now, thanks to a turkey. And complaints, the thing that sucks about that is the parts. I was able to get all OEM bearing replacements, but I will not get that lucky again. They are discontinued everywhere. OEM bearings are unobtainium for this bike. And this bike is still, of course, very fun. The few times a year I take it out, it's still extremely fun. I mean, I'm going at 50% right now. Seriously, 50% of what I could do. Never mind what this bike can do. This bike's probably doing about 5% of what it can do. But it's still a blast. It's still so fun. So good. Might do one more lap here. That's the thing too, like, one thing I love about this bike in first gear, which I don't get on any other bike, especially the inline fours, I think it's because of the low end torque, but I can ride through in first gear and it's not super jerky. It's actually pretty nice in first gear. It does kind of run out of legs when you get up there, but for the most part, I mean, in first gear, this thing rolls pretty dang good. And it's smooth, so you could stay in a lower gear if you want to. You could stay in a higher gear if you want to. You can shift around and rev match and do all that stuff, and it does it so smoothly. The power, it gets up there. It's still a 1000 at the end of the day. If you rev it out, it'll reward you with some good times. And it still fits into corners pretty good. It's a fun bike. And the more you ride it, the more comfortable you get, the better it gets. It just starts to really sink in pretty good. The turning capabilities of it, it loves to lean. It's a fun bike to lean over. It has the torque too, so you don't have to be super perfect with the shifting. You don't have to be super perfect with the throttle inputs. It's forgiving. It's pretty forgiving considering a super bike homologated but race bike. None of those things are forgiven. But this one compared to those is very forgiving. Now, some people may ask, like, how is this as a beginner bike, or even like a medium bike, you know, like an upgrade from a beginner bike. I think as a beginner bike, there are few worse bikes in the world. It's heavy, it's tall, it's uncomfortable, it's the way it makes power is good, but it's everything else about the bike that's bad for beginners. So for that reason alone, I would never consider it a beginner bike. I would only ever consider it intermediate to expert bike. I don't think it's so hard once you're familiar with riding, because like I said, the power is so smooth. The power delivery, the shifting is so smooth that it lends itself well for anybody who's trying to upgrade from a 300 or something. I wouldn't say a 300. I think even from a 300 to this is too much. But if you went from a 300 to a 600 and then from a 600 to this, you'd probably have a good time. If you think your 600 is just a little too fast, a little too much, get this, because it'll put you a little bit slower, but you'll get such a better feel to it. The biggest issue with this bike is just going to be how rare it is. At the end of the day, you can't really replace it that easily. And that's kind of a problem. And one thing I want to point out real quick while I'm thinking about it. One thing, and I don't know if it's with all of the exhausts, this exhaust came with the bike. And you're hanging off the pegs like this. Look at where my foot hits.
it hits it. So, because you want to sit on your balls and feet, but you hit that exhaust. So that might be a problem with those higher mounted exhausts.
If you had a lower mount, it might be a little bit better, but that's just something I wanted to point out while we're pulled over here.
Pointed out the comfort's not the greatest, but what this bike is, it's not trying to be comfortable. It's not trying to be a sport tourer. It's not trying to be a commuter bike. It's really trying to be a race bike. Like, actually trying to be a race bike. And because of that, Honda did a fabulous job with it. Such a freaking good bike. Because considering what it's designed for, which is something you always had to put into mind. I've owned this bike for 6 years now. I put probably about 3,000 miles on it in those years. Not a lot, I'll admit. But it is still one of the smoothest bikes I've ever ridden. And I just can't get over how good that is. It's not common to have a bike that shifts like this, and especially one from this era. And it's a Honda, yes, but my BMW doesn't feel like it, my 600 doesn't feel like it, my VFR doesn't feel like it. It's, you can tell a different set of engineers worked on this bike. A different department of Honda seemed to have worked on this bike. If you live near the mountains or near the racetrack with this bike and you want to go, that makes sense to me. Absolutely, do that. But if you can only have one bike, you will be disappointed if this is your only bike. I'm telling you, you will be. Because it's just too good at one thing and not a whole lot great at everything else. Is it reliable? Yes. Yes, you can take it 40,000 miles if you want. If you ride one and it doesn't bother your back, doesn't bother your wrists, you're okay with the seating position, you're one of those people it's just designed for. Some people, they can do that. I'm not one of them. I would highly recommend, before committing to it, taking one on a nice long ride. Know what you're getting into. It's a good bike. It's a great bike. But it's really, it's a specific bike designed for a specific purpose. And it's not a good all-arounder, in my opinion. And because of that, I've thought a lot about selling it. Over the years, not even just this year, but other years, I've thought about selling it. The values of them just keep going up. I saw one of them just went for sale, and it's completely all OEM 2005 from Iconic Motorsports, and the guy, I think they got north of like 13 grand for it, something like that, maybe more. It actually might have sold for like closer to 20. So these bikes are just shooting up in value. Of course, mine isn't all OEM. Mine isn't 1,000 miles. Mine isn't quite as pristine as that one was. But damn, it ain't that far off. It ain't that far off. If you want a tastefully modded RC51, mine could fetch to the right person $10,000, and that's a lot of money. You could buy a brand new ZX4RR, which is gonna be a lot funner. But I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't sell this and buy a ZX4RR. I'd probably just sell it and buy something else, invest the money, do something with the money. Because there's not another bike I really want more than this bike. It's just thinking about offloading some bikes, and this is kind of an easy one to pick to sell because of how rarely I get to take it out, and because of how uncomfortable it is. But I love looking at it. I love owning it. It's so special to me. When I pull it out, I just feel like I have something. But yeah, so that's kind of where I am at with this. I'm not gonna sell it, but if I ever needed the money and had to sell one of my bikes, I think this might be the one. I'm not sure. It's tough. Like I said, I'd never ride the thing, but it's so fantastic, and I would miss it, and I would regret selling it. I know I would. But it's one of those things where it's like you could just look and just say, you rode it 400 miles last year. 2 years ago, you rode it 300 miles. 3 years ago, you rode it 800 miles. 4 years ago, you rode it 1,500 miles. Like, you're riding it less and less. You're not quite using it the way you should be. Anyway, guys, that's the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. This is the RC51. This is just kind of a video of me going through it again, because I haven't posted it in a while, and I know you guys miss this bike, so why not post it? Why not show you guys what this bike's all about? And if you're not a subscriber to my second YouTube channel, I highly recommend it, Hero RR Vlogs. I'm going to have more videos up on there. There you can write directly to me by sending me an email at askherorr@gmail.com, and I will respond in a video format. So that's kind of a good way for you to get highlighted in one of my videos. If you are a big fan of the channel, I recommend it. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I will see you all in the next one. Take care, and bye-bye.